was there already, and so was Detective Inspector Barry Stott, who, for reasons clear to anyone who saw him, was more commonly known as Jug-Ears. Stott, who had recently been transferred from Salford upon his promotion from Detective Sergeant, was a temporary replacement for D.S. Philip Richmond, who had gone to Scotland Yard to join a special computer unit. Banks took a deep breath and walked behind the screen. Dr. Glendenning looked up, cigarette dangling from his mouth, its smoke indistinguishable from the fog that surrounded them. "Ah, Banks," he said in his lilting Edinburgh accent. Then he shook his head slowly. Banks looked down at the body. In all his years in Eastvale, he hadn't had to deal with a crime like this. He had seen worse in London, of course, which was part of the reason he had left the Met and transferred up north. But you clearly couldn't hide from it any more now. Not anywhere. George Orwell was right about the decline of the English murder, and this was exactly the kind of thing it had declined into. The girl, about 15 or 16 by the look of her, lay on her back in the long grass behind a huge Victorian sepulchre, upon which stood a marble statue of an angel. The angel had its back turned to her, and through the fog, Banks could make out the chipped feathers of its wings. Her eyes stared into the fog, her long blonde hair lay fanned out around her head like a halo, and her face had a reddish-purple hue. There was a little cut by her left eye, and some discoloration around her neck. A trickle of blood, the shape of a large teardrop, ran out of her left nostril. Her maroon school blazer lay bunched up on the ground beside her, and her white blouse had been ripped open at the front. Her bra had then been removed, roughly by the looks of it. Banks felt the urge to cover her. In his job he had already seen far more than a man should, and it was little things like this that sometimes affected him more than the blood and guts. The girl looked so vulnerable, so callously violated. He could imagine her shame at being exposed this way, how she would blush and hurry to cover herself, if she were alive. But she was beyond shame now. Below her waist, someone had pulled her skirt up to reveal her thighs and pubic region. Her long legs lay open at a 45-degree angle. Her white socks were down around her ankles. She wore shiny black shoes with buckles fastened at the sides. Lying beside her was an open satchel. The strap had come free of the metal ring at one end. Using his pen, Banks pushed back the flap and read the neatly inked address. Miss Deborah Catherine Harrison, 28 Hawthorne Close, Eastvale, North Yorkshire, England, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, European Community, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, the Universe. He smiled sadly to himself. It was a typical teenager's sense of playfulness, exactly the same thing he had done at school. Hawthorne Close meant money, as did St. Mary's in general. It was an area of large, mostly detached houses, each with an acre or two of garden, long drives and croquet lawns shaded by copper beeches. To live there, you had to make enough money to employ a gardener, at the very least. St. Mary's School required money too, about £1,200 per term. Banks had checked when he first arrived in town, but soon found he couldn't afford to send his daughter, Tracy, there. Banks cadged some evidence bags from one of the Socos and, holding the satchel by its edges, tipped the contents into one of them. All he found were a couple of exercise books with the name Deborah Catherine Harrison written on the cover, a portable chess set, a few cosmetic items, and 3 loose tampons in cellophane wrappers. But why had the satchel been open, he wondered. The buckles seemed strong enough, so he doubted it came open during a struggle. Had someone been looking for something? Glendenning directed one of his underlings to take oral, vaginal, and anal swabs and comb the pubic hair. Then he groaned and got to his feet. "I'm getting old, Banks," he said, massaging his knees. "Too old for this sort of thing." He jerked his head towards the body. Tall and white-haired, with a nicotine-stained moustache, the doctor was probably in his late 50s, Banks guessed. They moved away, letting the screen block their view of the victim. Every so often, Peter Darby's flash exploded, creating a strobe light effect in the fog. Banks accepted one of Glendenning's senior service. Normally he smoked